So, welcome to the Virtual Cheese Awards 2024, showcasing the best of British cheese. I'm Vicky Rogerson, and I'll be the moderator for this session. Today, we'll be judging the best hard cheese, which is 1001 category. And I'd like to introduce you our amazing cheese judges, Perry Wakeman and Hero Hirsch. Hero, will you go first and introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name's Hero Hirsch. This is my third time judging the Virtual Cheese Awards, so absolutely delighted about that. I have spent the last 15 years at Paxton and Whitfield, but that came to an end just a few days ago. So looking forward to doing some new things in cheese upcoming.
And Perry?
Hiya, I'm Perry from Rennet and Rind. I'm the CEO here and head of cheese, affiner. I'm mainly known for my affinage, refining cheese here in our 5 maturing rooms in Cambridge. I suppose I won. I was Britain's first ever affiner of the year, and I won again the following year. Thank you. Yeah, and we just opened a shop in Stamford. So if you're in Lincolnshire and you want to pop in and see what our cheese is about in person, then that's where you find us.
Great, thanks, guys. Yeah, so today we're going to be judging cow's milk cards. Now, judges will mark the cheeses on 4 different attributes. So appearance, aroma, texture, and flavour, and award points for each of those elements. And at the end, we will have a first, second, and third. So want to say just thank you to Butlers for their lovely aprons, which are much higher, so we can see the logo this time for Cheese Awards. So very happy for them, and also for Peter's Yard, who are our sponsor this year, who make the best sourdough crackers. So we're absolutely totally grateful for them for supporting us this year. So we'd like to go into the first cheese for this session, which is 1001.
Hey.
First cheese out.
Yeah.
First cheese.
With appearance, I see that you've snapped yours a little bit. Have a look at the structure on that. It's very even, isn't it? Like the coloration is totally uniform throughout.
Yeah, it's a really well put together cheese. It just seems like obviously potential cheddar style, no rind to inspect, which is a negative. It just isn't there for us to see. Seems like there's a little bit of crystallization in there, even all over the top. Good, like sort of break point. Got some good structure in there. So yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. It doesn't like blow me away with like character or anything, but it looks really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So where are we going with this? Maybe around a sort of 7, 8?
Yeah, perfect. There you go. Yeah, 7. I was thinking 7, 7, 8, something like that. So yeah, really good looking cheese.
Cool.
Great. Moving on to aroma.
Something very caramelly there, isn't there?
Yeah, a little bit of caramel. Very fresh as well. Very kind of like that grass milk kind of element that's in there. Really pleasant, not too overpowering.
Yeah,
and that subtlety of the sweetness is good.
But yeah. Where are you thinking?
So I think that I'm lacking a little bit of depth in there in terms of like complexity. It's really pleasant. I think it's quite subtle at the moment. That's what I'm getting. So I'll put it around about a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I'm happy with either a 6 or a 7.
Okay, let's go 6. Yeah.
Okay.
So
and then texture.
Texture.
So texture, yeah. It's surprisingly quite light, actually. Deceptively, when you break it between your fingers, it feels like it's going to be quite dense. But when it, hits your mouth, it kind of evaporates quite quickly.
Yeah.
Slightly granular.
But actually,
sorry, Hero. Sorry, what you?
Quite smooth as well. So smooth. Yeah. You need a little bit of like granulation.
Really pleasant. Doesn't sort of bowl me away. I quite like that juxtapose, like sort of the way it feels like it's going to be quite heavy, but it dissipates quite quickly.
It's overly claggy.
Not overly claggy. Those I am getting like the remaining kind of nodules that are kind of holding in there, which I'm not as keen on. You know, and that's kind of lingering, not bringing anything to the party for me. But that's just a minor thing.
I think texture-wise, I'd go relatively generous, like an 8, would you say?
Yeah. Okay,
No.
yeah, let's go 8. Yeah.
And then flavour, which I think has a greater impact on the score.
Yeah, it's 50%, weighted 50% of the score.
Yeah, I'm getting that kind of heavy Helveticus kind of like vibe that's in there.
Definitely that sweetness, that sort of caramelliness that you'd expect from that style.
Yeah, those kind of like free things, you know, the sweet, sour, kind of high impact at the front. Longevity, I don't think it's got like as much as I would like. I'm getting quite a short experience. And it's really pleasant, and to me it feels more Moorish. I could imagine more people wanting to go back for more and more of this, because they're trying to get that short, sharp experience up front.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, and but I do feel like I'm just missing that degree of length and complexity.
I would agree, length, complexity, and for me, a little bit of balance. Like I'd love it to be a little bit more restrained on the sweetness and a little bit more lean into the savouriness.
Yeah. So I think it's a good cheese, and I think on the flavour wise, I'll put it around 6 for me.
Yeah, I would say a 6, 6.5 for me. Yeah, so 6 is fine. I don't know if we're going to do half points.
You can do half points. Sometimes you've got a lot of cheese.
To do at some stage, but let's keep them in reserve and go with a 6.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. And then we'll move on to the next one. So we've got one that's missing, and one is F10 1021.
Hey, much paler in appearance cheese this. It's sort of ivory, isn't it? Just gonna give that a little scrape where it's been next to the wrapping.
Yeah, far more crumbly, obviously in texture. You've got some of the rind there, which seems to be, you know, quite young and not as developed on the outside. So quite a youngish cheese.
It looks like it may have been cloth bound potentially at some point. There's
Yeah,
like a imprint from the weft and warp of the cheesecloth potentially.
yeah, definitely.
It does look a very nice even cheese though. I think appearance wise, I'd be quite generous with this.
Yeah, I think it looks interesting. I think like the sort of, you can immediately identify maybe I always like when you can identify what experience that you're going to have. I would imagine a high sort of lactic kind of acid, moist kind of thing. I always like when you visually know what you're going to get. And I think, well, I might be proved wrong, but
yeah,
I think
it's building a certain expectation for me in terms of its appearance as well. I'd be tempted to go with the sort of 8.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, bang on the 8. I like the appearance of the rind. I like that being present, so I can just see what's gone into it a little bit more. The grading is actually really nice and gradual on the outside, the coloration. So yeah, 8, perfect.
Great. Aroma.
Yeah, it's nice and it's quite subtle.
Yeah.
Milky.
Yeah.
Have a look around.
It's pretty kind of like that one-dimensional in the area of acid, you know, like being lactic, milk, that kind of, but it's what you would expect with a crumbly territorial style.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to get
There's some
a little
interesting
bit
stuff going on around the rind though. If you have a like a sort of, you know, mustiness, like a little bit more like cellar. So
yeah, mine's like definitely like more you know, kind of punt as you open a punnet of mushrooms, a little bit kind of that vibe.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think when we come to do the taste, it's going to be quite important to be sampling it quite near that rind just to see what impact that's having.
Yeah, and it's definitely more graduated. I think I think that's more yeah, I appreciate that a little bit more now. I've got more involved in the rind. I think I'll be around about sort of maybe like a 7-ish.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Texture. Oh, it's lovely and flaky, isn't it? That sort of flaky curd structure.
Actually, like for a crumbly cheese, it's actually really nice to cut with a knife. Actually, as well, it does like it holds together, then rather than just being a bit of a mess and
Yeah.
crumbling everywhere, which is quite
Very
cool.
clean. And actually, aroma-wise, even better once you've cut into it rather than the cut surface that we were. But we're on texture, aren't we?
It's drier than I thought it would be on the texture.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit of a shame. The crumbly is kind of like holding up in quite a kind of firm way, kind of pointing me to just sort of some really kind of hyper like acidification of the cheese. Yeah, the texture's okay for me, but I have some problems with it, I think.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate it. It's I think when I opened it, I expected it to be a little bit moister, maybe.
Yeah.
Very sort of drying. Around about a 6 or 5,
Yeah.
6.
Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah, let's go 6. Yeah.
6, great. And then taste, flavour.
Let me get close to the rind here.
Rind definitely brings more savoury into it, which is yeah, far more improved. But there is a kind of astringent, slight, for me, a slight bitter, borderline chemical note, which on the aftertaste, which is very acquired in flavour, I think.
Yeah. There's a big difference between the centre of the cheese and the rind. The centre being much more acidic, very, very crumbly texture, whereas by the rind there's a little bit more savouriness going on, a little bit improved, but the contrast is quite marked.
Yeah, and the acidity is quite low ebb actually. It's quite more moves into that milky area. I'm not getting the complexity of a acid sour or lemon, or I can't really distinguish firmly. But yeah, that final note ending on bitter is a little bit too much for me, and borderlines in, there's an area where it becomes like mineral almost, which is quite a nice finish, but then it takes off into kind of a more astringent finish.
Yeah, I would love to see this cheese be more like the rind than the center, which maybe is just like a little bit more time, but just to lean into the savory notes that you're getting there, I think would be an improvement for this cheese.
Definitely. Be interesting to see a little bit more age. I think trying to lock maybe more moisture in this cheese would be really favourable, at the point of make. And I'd be interested to see who made this cheese and see, the acidification of the milk and things like that as well, and how that, control the direction of that cheese. So on flavour, did we say around about a 5? Did we?
I think that's where we were for texture, but I would say, yeah, flavor wise, around 5, 6.
Yeah, 5, 6. 5.5.
Always bringing out the halves.
I'm sorry. Does it make it more complicated for you, or is it okay?
No, it's absolutely fine. It's sometimes easier to do halves as well, so them.
Yeah, split the difference.
Yeah. So the next cheese we're going to be is F10 1059.
Lovely looking piece of cheese.
Yes.
Very nice sort of fuzzy rind, velvety rind almost.
Yeah, and it's quite dominant, even though it's been wrapped. That, and the thinness of that rind is like masterful. It's very, very even. To visually look at it, very good cheesemaker. Knows what they're doing. Caerphilly style. or Caerphilly. Yeah, that velvety rind's really nice, and I think that's really, really appetizing to look at and interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And
So
I can't notice any faults predominantly with it. So
yeah, I'm not sure that I would. There's a little graduation of colour, but you'd expect that in a Caerphilly style, especially as it sort of nears the rind. So appearance wise, quite high, I'd say, like up at the top, 9.
yeah, let's go 9. I think that's a really good looking cheese, and I think that you're gonna struggle to find. I've seen a few better in my time of cheesemongering than the way that looks. Yeah.
Right. Aroma. I'm just gonna get into the cheese here.
Yeah, really lets you know where it's been, you know.
Yeah, there's so much going on that rind, isn't there?
And it's just so nice, like obviously cutting it open, having that, fresh balance rather than in the packaging in the middle. See, you're getting, a little ever so, the mushroom, earthy, musty kind of thing that's coming in from that rind. And then like with a sort of lemon edge that it has in the middle, I think it's really nicely balanced. There's a slight touch of ammonia for me. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing in this cheese, but nothing crazy.
It's certainly typical for this style of cheese. I don't know it's not necessarily pleasant, but it is typical. So
oh, totally. I think ammonia kind of has a place. I don't think it's specifically a defect. I think it's I think it will lend itself to the cheese really, really well.
Yeah.
So what score are you going to give aroma?
Perhaps an 8.
Yeah, 8.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Then texture. We're going to have a few different textures going on here, I'd assume.
Mm. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm like into. That kind of those nodules break down really nicely. I think you get that crumbly, that moisture that's in there. It holds together really, really well, I think, and dissipates really nicely and quite evenly.
And texture on the rind as well. That's actually very, very pleasant. I think,
yeah,
reflecting on what we're saying about it being a very sort of delicate, thin rind, that's really working in its favor at this point, because it's not chewy, it's not overly pappy.
Very hard for me to not think about flavor right now. I think it tastes delicious, actually. I think
it's difficult, isn't it, to detect mouthfeel before the flavor.
Yeah. So I think mouthfeel. I think it'd be hard to find a style of this cheese, that's actually so well balanced with that slight crumble that and it sticks together, dissipates just on time, great timing. That rind is really nice. Yeah, I'm up around about maybe like an 8 on this one.
Sure, I would say 9.
Okay, let's go 9. I needed that to push me over the edge.
Right.
And now you can go on to taste.
We've got a few different things going on here. And the rind is just fantastic being near that rind, the savoury notes that we're getting there.
And it's brilliant how delicate that is as well. There's a lot of complexity for for this cheese. I think the salt balance is absolutely perfect. There's just enough there to carry that level of complexity, but also not enough for it to be a point within the cheese. I think that balance around acidity, that savoury that's coming in, that subtle mushroom that's just wrapping it all up. I think that's bloody delicious.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think, knowing this style of cheese as we both do, there are certain pitfalls, and it hasn't fallen into any of those. It's really kind of exactly what you'd want from this style. So I'd be tempted to go quite high, like up in the 9.
Yeah, all right. No, I'm happy with that. I think that's I think it's hard not to actually to not be a 9. I'm trying. No, I think definitely a 9.
Okay.
Okay. But it's a really delicious cheese, and I
Yeah.
love to see these styles when they're just, you know, they can give so much to a customer in terms of like the flavor and open their eyes, because there is nothing offensive in there, and there is only good stuff that's coming from there in terms of the flavor and how well the texture merges together with that you know, that delicate rind we identified at the start just wraps it all up so pleasantly. It's well done, cheesemaker. That's a delicious cheese.
Bit of cheese maker there.
Thanks, guys. And moving on to the next one is 1060. And hi, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
Can't hear you on mute.
Hi, how are you doing? That looks very interesting already.
Yes, some good
I'm on
people
my
already.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm on my son's computer now.
Okay, got you.
I can only hear you with the headphones. I can't work out to change it.
Oh, got you. Is it in the mid? Are you going to be playing Halo or something on a gaming PC or something?
I'll have a go, yeah, whilst I'm on this super gaming situation, yes.
Lovely. Yeah. No. All good so far. Cheese is good.
So, appearance-wise,
Oh,
yeah, got
Fun,
almost
isn't it?
a cartoon style of cheese. So, quite nice, evenly sized holes, actually. I don't know if your piece is different
I
to mine.
totally agree. Yeah, I mean, you've got a good distribution there of the holes, means that the, you know, the bacteria hasn't got out of hand. Yeah, and they're really pronounced sapphires. So the guy, you know, who's making this, the person that's making this, the guys, you know, knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's very even all across.
Yeah, rind wise, I suspect possibly some coating or something on the rind, but it's very, very delicate, very even.
Very even, you know. Obviously, we haven't got a whole piece of cheese. Maybe we've got half each of one thing. So
that way, and
there you go. Yeah, it's like Power Rangers or something, Cheese Rangers. But yeah, if that's the case, I mean, you can kind of guess it's very even. It looks like it's been looked after, turned really well. Yeah, it's hard to find much of a fault with that. And it's fairly young, so yeah.
I can imagine something like this on a counter just tempting a lot of people in just by looking the way that it does. So I'd be tempted to go quite high, maybe an 8.
Yeah, I think an 8. I think it's a really pleasant looking cheese. I think you know, it's to lift it higher would be that sort of degree of like complexity in terms of color and that graduation coming in a little bit more. I feel that's you know, that's what I think. Yeah, lovely. 8 it is.
Aroma.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Yeah, it feels quite smoky, doesn't it?
Yes, it does actually. I was worried that maybe it's in contact with some of the smoked cheese I've been trying this afternoon for a moment, but
interesting. It's like
yes, I don't think this is a smoked cheese though.
I'm pretty confident it isn't. I mean, actually, closer to the rind.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a smoked cheese.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I mean, maybe it's the backpack kind of thing. Oh no, it's the cling film. So yeah, so I think we may be dealing with a smoked cheese here. I'll be surprised. I mean,
the smoke is coming entirely from the rind though, whereas the center of the cheese, I'm not detecting any at all. Like the first sniff was right in the center part I've got here, and I didn't detect any smoke at all. Just that sort of milky kind of Swiss style sweetness.
Yeah, so it's a Emmental kind of like style, which we think has been smoked. Otherwise, there's something clever going on there in terms of really getting that kind of smoked bacon vibe within the cheese. Yeah, I think that's I'm trying to work out if it's interesting because I wasn't expecting it, or if it's interesting in terms of.
If we could taste this cheese and understand a bit more about it before we mark, because if there's smokiness on the aroma, but it's not a smoked cheese, that might actually count against it, I suppose.
Yeah, that's fine. We can hold those
Yeah,
scores and then
hold on that and just do
Sure.
texture and flavour briefly.
The pliancy is pretty massive. That's in there.
Real elasticity to it. Not a smoked cheese. Not to jump ahead, but
Fascinating.
yeah, just gonna get a little bit closer to that rind and figure out what's going on there.
Yeah.
Very, very different right at the rind here. It is smoky, whereas the center very much not. If this is a smoked cheese, the smoke isn't particularly well integrated, I would say.
That, you know, that rind is wet, is
Yeah.
very, very thick.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay, so texturally it's very it's very together. The pliancy, I would like to see a little bit more break and a little bit more texture to it. It's kind of just mush at the moment, in terms of, so I'd like to see maybe a little bit more moisture removed from it to see that kind of nice snap that you get from a style that's similar to this. So I'd put the texture around about sort of 6, 7 for me.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'd be happy with a 6, 7. It is even, it's smooth. I don't know that, you know, without a lot more age that we'd see much snap to it. I think a little bit of elasticity in this kind of Emmental style is fine. So I'd go for the higher end because I think it is like as it should be texture wise.
Yeah.
So 7.
Yeah.
And did
Yeah,
you
okay.
go back over aroma and score aroma?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh, the right.
it's almost like two different cheeses from the center to the rind. Aroma wise and flavor wise.
See, like, I think I was going in there, like, after us sort of navigating what this cheese is going in having more of a smoky flavour that was there. So I don't know how that stacks up in terms of not managing our expectations well as we go in. And I think if it was on a counter and a customer went, oh, you smell this cheese, essentially goes, oh, it's smoky cheese, and they had it, and they'd be like, oh, actually, it's got none of those characteristics, I don't think, within the cheese.
Yeah, because if you served this cheese and somebody started at that end, they'd be getting a very, very different experience to someone who was trying it later.
Yes. So
I don't think there's anything unpleasant in there. It's not sort of a fault aroma wise, but yeah, like you say, it's about expectation. I think perhaps around a 6.
Hang on, that's what I was thinking. So that's perfect. Yeah.
And then flavor, again, we've got a similar dichotomy, don't we, as we did with the aroma. So
I think when I try and remove all the thoughts about smokiness and pre and just focus on that flavor, it's really subtle. That sweet milk comes through. There's a touch of kind of that nut in there, but not enough to be identifiable. So it makes it kind of a really pleasant, edible repeatedly, kind of like cheese. But in terms of that complexity that they were trying to deliver in terms of the smokiness or whatever, I feel like that's not there. And there's other styles like this that have delivered more complexity at the same profile as this of cheeses that I've had in the past.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think the smoke is pleasant. It's not overpowering, the smoke. And in fact, at the center of the cheese, it's almost undetectable. Center of the, where it doesn't have the influence of the smoke, which is kind of bringing savory notes to it. It is a little bit thin in flavour for me, like almost verging on bitterness.
I think thin is a perfect description of it. I think with like those holes, those characters, that kind of aggressive sweet profile, you would think. I just think it just falls down slightly in that area. Really pleasant cheese, yeah, really pleasant cheese, good, but I'll put it round about sort of a 6 for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I think just a bit more integration of the smoke, maybe like you say, a little bit more time. Could really bring the whole thing up a point or two.
Yeah.
Great, guys. And the next one is 1090.
Hey, a little pop of color on the rind here. A nice golden looking paste. I can see a little bit of crystallization through it as well. Sorry, Perry, I'm racing ahead of you.
No, go ahead. I'm struggling with the cling film. What am I doing? It's just
high security cheese.
yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit of crystallization. I can see you've got some little bit of rind ingress in yours, is there maybe?
Yes, I've got a little bit of kind of like miting just up here, you know.
There's a little bit on mine as well, just in the center here. Not anything I'd be overly concerned about. I wouldn't, need to cut around that at all, but of note.
I think you're looking at a very, obviously, like a very aged cheese. And mites are a part of life, cheese life, as it were.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that I'll get a lot more character from it. And but I think it's a really interesting cheese. I can imagine someone looking at it on the counter and immediately know what they're looking for with that potential tyrosine crystals that are in there. We're looking for big flavour, that nice reduction in colour, like the the kind of amber yellow.
Yeah, the golden sort of amber color, as you say, is it's really striking.
So
I mean, for me, I'm expecting good things based on the appearance. I'd be tempted to go with like an 8.
Yeah, I think an 8. And a side note, to the cheesemaker, control that, for a plastic coated cheese, you should be really focusing on that, not having any mites there, really. Yeah.
Right.
Aroma, it was quite clear when we were unwrapping these, like there's quite a bit going on here. Let's unpack it.
To me, I feel like I actually for a while I haven't had a cheese like this, so I don't know why. Just but that real refined kind of sugar caramel intensity.
Yeah, where there is that little bit of ingress, you can sort of smell the mites in the paste a little bit.
There's a little bit of kind of I mean, I always associate that sort of aroma of mite with like kind of almost like, in a weird world, like bleachy, and there's just a little kind of like touch of kind of like that's in there. So I totally agree. There's the start of it, which is great caramel, that richness that what you're gonna eat, and then at some parts there is that kind of mighty area, which isn't particularly pleasant.
Yeah, so a little bit of a deduction there, perhaps around a 7. 6?
I think a 7. Yeah.
Great.
I think a 7. I think the upfront flavour is really nice. Aroma is really nice, and I think that's just laid down by a definite default that's in there. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I was saying it is promising a lot in terms of that aroma. So texture wise, I think from appearance we've kind of built up an idea of what texture to expect here, but
yeah, it's surprisingly got a lot of moisture actually in it, which lends into the kind of oil area actually.
It's so crystalline. It's
Yeah.
like noisy. It's so
Wow.
crystalline.
Yeah, that's like eating like almost like there's some, like a Rice Krispie or something like that. There is a definite, almost audible crunch in there, which I know some people will love.
Yeah. Do you love it?
I think I do. I think I think I do. I like the way that, so you got that sweet caramel that we all know, that butterscotch that would be expected to see with the style. But I actually love the moisture content that's in there as well. So I feel like it leaves my palate, and then immediately it kind of makes me salivate a lot more, and and I'm excited to try another piece. And then that lingering that happens into kind of that savory element, which is nice. Yeah, I'm. How do you feel about it?
Texture-wise, yeah, no, I'm enjoying the crunch.
Mm.
And outside of the crystalline, it's got quite a nice sort of buttery melt to it, almost like there is a smoothness there outside of the crunchiness. I think it's a very popular texture, and like you say, there's a lot of people that are going to enjoy that. So I'd be tempted to, and it's clearly intentional as well. So I'd be tempted to go up to like a 7, perhaps an 8 with the texture.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it's difficult with that crunch. When's too much crunch and when's too little?
Exactly.
And it's
Yeah.
very isolated as well, isn't it? It's very because the texture is just so smooth once it hits the palate, and it just kind of like dissipates, and you're left with just those crystals. Really interesting. I don't think there's only a few times that I've experienced that. I think maybe I'll be around about a 7 on the
7.
texture, I think.
Yep. And then taste.
It's really full flavored. I mean, it is absolutely a mouthful. There's some acidity in there, which is, it's almost like a balance, like a battle between sweet and sour. Like when you have like a sour sweet, like a tang fastic or something. It's so extreme.
Very extreme, but I think that's the desired outcome that's there. Towards the more central, I'm getting a little bit more kind of like farmy that's in there. But the typical kind of like tropes that are there, I think yeah, I mean, I think anyone that eats this cheese is going to be satisfied after a few bites. I think that's the thing, because it's so big.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Could it
would
be more?
a huge amount of this.
But is it setting out what it's meant to do? A bit of like a gnarly cheese with a lot of character, bold.
Yeah, I think it is, and it does have character. It's not just a straightforward, like sort of sweet, crystalline kind of Goudery style. It's got some farmy notes. It's a bit sulfurous in places. There's some intrigue there.
Quite like it. I think I'd be near an 8 on this one.
Yeah, I'd be happy with an 8, definitely.
Okay.
Cool.
Great. Gnarly cheese. Love it.
Yeah. It's a fun cheese, that is.
So the next one is 1091.
Okay, we have another holy cheese.
You're straight out there with this cling film. I'm never good with the cling film.
I've actually unwrapped them already.
Well prepared.
He's a pro.
Yeah. Just checking.
Yeah.
Just checking. Yeah.
Not quite.
Yeah. Nice looking cheese, good ingress, kind of good coloration on it, much, sort of lighter. Got a kind of a little sort of what are they called, the mechanical kind of like openings that are there, but across the board it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, agreed. Nice, even rind is very even, and good distribution of the eyes in that cheese as well. So yeah, appearance wise, would we head up to like an 8?
Yeah, I think there's nothing particularly wrong with that. I think it's very appealing. I think that's good looking cheese. Yeah.
Aroma, not smoked. I don't think
No.
this will cause us as much difficulty as the last cheese with holes in.
No. There's a nice element of that complex sweet that's in there.
Yeah.
You know, rather than just being like a milky sweet, there's a touch of that sort of caramel kind of like note that's in there as well, which is quite cool.
It's not just one-dimensional.
Yes. I quite like that. I think it's pleasant. I can't find anything that I dislike about it, and I can't find anything that particularly blows me away. So maybe I'll put it around a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, should we go for an 8?
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Then texture-wise, be sure to get some.
Firmer than I was expecting, actually. Quite chewy.
Almost has a little bit of I don't want to say rubberiness, because that sounds like quite negative, but the elasticity, like it really springs back, doesn't it?
Really springs back, makes it a little bit more sort of difficult to eat. I don't know if it particularly adds anything to the cheese, that spring back.
I just think it's like texturally what you would expect from looking at this cheese. It's like you expect that sort of elasticity.
Mm. Yeah.
Why the rind is a little bit more a little bit less of that spring back and a little bit more kind of yielding, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I would like more of that actually in the cheese. To me, I think having that spring back is not adding a degree of not helping the cheese. I think it would be nice if it just dissipated a little bit more. And I feel like it becomes a little bit more of a challenge in the texture, rather than you're interacting with the cheese rather than it interacting with you. So I'd be around about a 6 or a 7, I think, for the texture.
No, I would agree with that texture wise, and that we want that, like what's going on at the rind is much preferable to what's going on in the center, where it's obviously hasn't developed as quickly. So
6.
Mhm.
Is it a 6 or a 7?
A 6, if that's okay. Yeah.
And then
Really pleasant flavor.
Yeah, there's nothing bad there. It is very different by the rind. I think the rind are actually really enjoying the flavor and the texture as well. More. I think just better balance, that a little bit more savory. Moving away from just a sort of sweet milky in the center.
Yeah, that kind of sour cream kind of note in the sort of center, the more away from the rind. I like less of that, and there's less of that towards the rind. Yeah. Okay, yeah, maybe like a 6. I don't think there's anything particularly, it's a really pleasant cheese.
Yeah.
I think anyone would pick that up and be, really just happy with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, flavor wise, probably a 5 in the center and a 7 on the outside. So yeah, 6 overall.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, guys. So next one is 1092.
Hey, we've got a very gnarly looking cheese here. Just gonna hold this up, just have a look at this rind. Really interesting looking.
Yeah, there's quite a strong aroma that comes out as you open that one up. It's unavoidable. There's a lot going on in there.
Yeah, I mean, appearance wise, I think it's an interesting looking cheese, isn't it? Having all that kind of rough, kind of cratered kind of appearance to the rind.
Yes, it's certainly unconventional, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
there's they're hoping that obviously the kind of gnarliness of the cheese and the character attracts those people that like real, sort of challenging,
Yeah, they want
different cheeses.
a bit sort of yeah, dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it kind of falls in kind of a category where, it's not a traditional make and they're not striking their goals in terms of rind perfection. But what they lack in rind perfection, maybe they make up in character.
I think it's exactly that. There's this battle here between the sort of appearance, which I think to a lot of people would be like, oh wow, look at that incredible looking piece of cheese, but also maybe a bit of like stickiness to this rind that's kind of concerning me, maybe a little bit about how it's going to taste. So I mean, I think we have to mark it up for character, right?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
we do. So yeah, I mean, let's go 6 or 7. I'm thinking. I mean,
I think it's achieving a thing appearance wise, and that's all we're looking at this stage.
yeah, and I think I struggle with, if the gamble on, the slight imperfections in the rind pay off, then luckily flavor is heavily weighted. And I feel like if we were looking at what other people have done, I know we're not meant to compare, that it would be unfair to not look at some of that defect and balance it out.
Okay. So what were we saying? Did you
Well,
say
where would you like to go? That's yeah.
I think a 7. I think there are still 3 other attributes to consider here, and I think appearance is. I think we could be generous here.
I think so. I think 7 is great. I think it's just balancing out that character versus quality, I suppose. Yeah.
Right, 7.
Yeah.
Aroma.
Well, that rhyme's fun.
There is a lot of ammonia and mite on the rind,
Hide the cheese.
which is
It's quite fun. I'm getting like yeah, it's that's I'm getting that kind of like sweetness that's inside there. It seems like it's consistently got to be a cheese of two worlds.
yeah. I mean, I have to say, just the aroma, unpacking it and smelling around the rind is of concern to me. I don't think I could go very high a mark on this, perhaps.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think inside the pace and obviously trying to exclude the rind, I think it's quite pleasant.
Okay. Just isolate.
Yeah, this is a strong old cheese, isn't it? But I don't think it's you like before where we were balancing character versus finish. I think the character and the gnarliness definitely doesn't pay off in terms of aroma.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to be around about a 5 for me on this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Texture. Looks like there's a fairly substantial breakdown just underneath the rind. So a couple of textures here to consider. I'm a bit nervous about eating any of the rind, if I'm honest.
I'll do it. It's fine.
Okay.
Right. That is that. So we're in very, very powerful territory on that rind. Yeah.
Hard not to drift into assessing the flavor here. Texture wise, it's a little softer than I expected, and with considerable sort of breakdown just underneath the rind, it's actually like quite nice and squidgy.
I really like the texture. I'm happy, like pleasantly surprised. It's got that kind of like clotted cream kind of like vibe to it, you know, when you so I compliment them on the texture quite a lot. I think
the texture is one of the best things about this cheese.
Yeah. So I think texture I'll go around about 8.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy to see it get an 8.
Talk about that flavour.
It's so odd when we were doing aroma, it's like it smells really salty, but that's not, salt isn't something you can normally detect, but it is very, very salty.
It's kind of like its thing. Like I'm in a really odd way. When you get a salty cheese, I feel my palate's immediately kind of like offended by it. And you know, it's overwhelming. I don't feel, I mean, I totally agree. It is literally like cheesy water salt. But I'm not like, oh my God, I can't I quite like the dimension that it's in. But then as you get close to the rind, that ammonia is just completely taken over, and the rind is completely inedible, and it kind of goes into this area of who can eat the hottest chili kind of challenge, rather than it being which maybe they desire to set out, that kind of attracts a challenge.
There is nothing restrained about this cheese, and that saltiness, it's when you kind of if you can like put the saltiness aside, I think there's some bitterness in there. There's perhaps, the ammonia is, and the bitterness are kind of, interacting or causing each other. It's just, it's lacking in any subtlety.
Yeah, I think it's I think it has to be around a 5 on this one, I think, for yeah, and I think that's just what I like this style of cheese, actually. For some reason, I'm always drawn towards the kind of extreme singular edges of the thing. But I'm very aware this cheese would probably just be for me, and a select group of people that are into that kind of area. If their desired outcome is to make a cheese that's for a really niche, then they've achieved it.
Yeah, I'm quite interested to know how this could be, how this cheesemaker could alter this cheese and kind of bring it back into something that has not like a broad, it's never going to have a broad appeal, but maybe a little bit less niche than just you, Perry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I considering the level of creaminesses that it's had, I would imagine the area that it's matured in is a very high moisture, really high humidity, because that ammonia is literally just breaking down. It's just, the mites are loving it, everyone's loving it on the outside. But that would be really interesting. And, if the cheesemaker's interested in, obviously bringing it to a broader church, give one of us a shout, and we'd love to know how you make this cheese, and if you do want to be part of a broader church.
Yes, maybe that's not the intention, but I'd love to see it maybe a little bit younger, a little bit drier on that rind, so that it's maybe not just develops quite as much mightiness and ammonia. But I would like to see more of this cheese, just
I think it's go really nice with like a glass of sherry or something, like a kind of like really double kind of whack it out. But so a 5 for flavor, and I'd love to know more about it.
Great, thank you. Our next one is 1097.
Hey, interesting. Got quite a lot of quite strong aroma, but we won't center on that first. So We've got quite a spotty looking rind, a little bit uneven, and I've actually got a little bit that's sort of headed into my cheese.
Haven't got that on there on my one, but yeah. So I'll leave that to you to see. It's interesting. There's sort of age, obviously, very apparent in it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the kind of backpacking hasn't helped it. The moisture has become a little bit damp on the rind and a little bit not as good looking, but that's not what it's about. I think it's got a lot of character. It's very interesting. The maturation is very gradual on the way out to in for a heavily aged cheese. Yeah.
Yeah, agree. Sorry, I was just giving mine a little clean up because I think some bits of the rind are kind of stuck into the paste in the backpack. So just wanted to make sure I'm giving that a fair shout. There is a fair amount of opening in my cheese, which has just caused it to kind of like a big spot through it. So appearance wise, I think I probably would have to deduct a little bit for that. But like you say, lots of nice signs of age, and so it's kind of building an expectation of a full flavored and well aged cheese for me. Maybe around a 7.
Yeah, a 7. A 7. Obviously taking the point off the sort of like the miting, the heavy ingress that you have.
But yours doesn't have that, does it?
No, mine doesn't have it at all that I can see. I've got that sort of, the obviously from cutting the graduation from the rind, but
Okay.
Aroma's great.
Fully pineapple, like caramelized pineapple, isn't it?
And a lovely degree of kind of like savory that's in there, a little touch of kind of like nut that's there. There's a lot of vast and complexity that's in it.
Yeah,
really good cheese.
Rind as well, but I'm enjoying every part of it. But there is like a difference in between the different parts of the cheese, which I'm enjoying. I'd go quite high for aroma, maybe like a 9.
I think so. I think like a 9. I think that's I think quite like you said, there's a lot going on at loads of different locations. I mean, I've got a slight touch of ammonia, but that's from the backpacking. So, transport is transport and it is what it is, particularly near the wet face of it. But I don't think that's atypical of this cheese. I think it's a transport thing.
I've had mine sort of open in the backpack for about an hour or so, and I don't have any ammonia. So I think that's probably, like you say, just will dissipate quite quickly. And I don't
totally. So I'm happy to be 9 with that. Happy.
Great.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to trying it from the smell.
Yeah.
Texture wise, it's got a bit of snap. And mouthfeel, a very smooth breakdown.
Yeah, and it holds up. There's a little bit of kind of like that sort of textural fight back going on there, but not in a, I think you said earlier, like in a yielding way. It's like it puts up a bit of a fight, which I quite like. Yeah, lovely.
Really good texture. I'm going to try a little bit closer to the rind just to see how that. I'm not sure that this is an edible rind. It's a little firmer.
Yeah, and kind of what I would expect, really, actually. Like I've tried it all over, but as you go into the rind, you're going to get slightly drier. It's only like it's like 4 millimeters down. I think I like that gradual like roux, that like flour kind of texture that it has as well on the once it finishes after you've kind of finished. Yeah, I think it's a really masterful cheese, isn't it?
No, I think texture wise for me, probably around the 8-9 mark.
Yeah, can we go 8.5? I think that's
Do 8, 9, or 8.5. I'm happy with all of those.
8.5 it is.
And then flavour.
I mean, it's delicious.
It is delicious.
You know, it's interesting because it moves into this area for me because we were saying about the pineapple, like, but I'm just getting really hyper savory. You know, I'm getting like a lot of, you know, Bovril, like kind of, you know, reduction beef. You know, it's very concentrated in that area for me, which I really like.
Yeah, definitely. That kind of glutamatey roast meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you take that breath after it's finished on your palate, you get that like little zip of like that acidity, kind of like sharpness that's kind of just comes back, which is just, God, it's fairly brilliant, to be fair. I mean, it's
very more. I've had quite a lot of cheese now.
yeah.
And I keep coming back to.
Yeah, the texture, the flavor, the aroma all links up really, really well. And yeah, I would imagine a lot of people would have this on their cheese board. Yeah, it would come out as their favorite.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling that flavor wise, this is probably going to be one of the highest so far for me.
Yeah, I think it's excellent, and I think excellent, you know, deserves 9.
You wouldn't go any higher?
Oh, you make the decisions on the 10s. I always yeah.
I think for me, I mean, how would you improve on the flavor?
Well, I suppose it's not about improvement in terms of when I'm looking at 10. I'm looking at, you know, that's one of the best experiences you know, cheese experience I've had in my cheesing life. And I love it. Is it up there? Do I put it in that 10 category? So if you want, we can go 9.5 if you want.
Let's go 9.5.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
9.5.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, Perry's had quite a cheesing life. I don't know how.
How do I? Yeah, I just kind of like, yeah. I mean, it's a stunning cheese, and I think, I mean, Vic, you might be able to help us. It puts it in the category of definitely the best cheese we've had so far.
Yeah.
So it's not the highest scoring one. So it's a highest score.
Oh,
Other one,
okay.
the 1059
The Philly,
was a 39.5, and this is a 38.75. I think the appearance mark would have that slight ingress pulled it down because
because the Cathilly was pretty flawless appearance wise, wasn't it?
Does make sense though when you just think about our logic behind that, and yeah, that if you didn't have that ingress, then yeah.
And I think, you know, overall, I'm quite comfortable with that ranking.
Totally, I totally agree. Yeah. I thought that would be our best one, but you know, reflecting quickly and being like, oh, that one right there that's looking at me.
Yeah, absolutely stunning cheeses. So, you know, fair play.
The next one is 1099.
Okay. So we've got very delicately rinded cheese, this, isn't it? I think I would expect for something, the paste kind of making me think that it's quite aged, but then the rind is sort of suggesting
very faint.
Yeah, really, really, really fine rind. Very even looking paste. We shouldn't be comparing cheeses, but in terms of like the graduation of color, like there's a much less difference between the paste and the cheese just by the rind there. So appearance wise, I mean, I think it looks very nice. I'd be maybe around a sort of 7, 8.
I think I'll be 8. I mean, there's nothing. I think it's pretty much, you know, in that area of does it have a degree of character element that's in there? Maybe not. Is it done really, really well and it's of really good quality? I think maybe a 7 or an 8.
Yeah.
8?
Yeah, let's go 8.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, it smells delicious. It's
So delicious.
yeah, that's
Like fruity notes. That's sort of like quite nice aromatic fruity notes.
yeah, and it's got like that degree of almost like it dips into that kind of alcohol, like winey kind of area, like barrel age stuff, and yeah,
It's not the most pungent cheese that we've had today. The aroma is quite subtle, but I don't think there's anything unpleasant at all in there. It's kind of, I'm excited to try it.
I agree. I think you'd be very hard pressed to find. You know, I think it ticks all the boxes, and on aroma, I think the balance of complexity there is really good. I think it's not as, yeah, as you said, pungent. It's more subtle, but I think that's only a good thing. Actually, I think it plays into the favour of where it is.
Yeah, where are you thinking to go?
Well, I was thinking actually 9, to be honest.
Okay.
Just because I think it smells like really great, and I think that I think anything, that 8 or 9 would be a slight sort of I don't find anything particularly wrong with that, and I find it really, really pleasant.
Go 8.5.
Yes, let's go 8.5. Yeah.
And texture. A little bit of squeakiness there.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that squeakiness actually. Really dense cheese, actually, isn't it?
It's got a nice melting, like as it melts. There's something very pleasant there. It's not overly claggy.
Very even the way it melts, isn't it? Very even. There's almost you can stopwatch how long that takes to on each piece, how it takes to subtly melt out. Yeah, that's nice. That is.
Yeah, I'm thinking around like a 7 or 8 for that.
Yeah, I think an 8.
Great.
Yeah.
Then flavor wise, it's nicely balanced. I'm getting something a little bit almost like chivy or oniony in it.
Yes, bang on. Yeah. Yeah, it's in that kind of, what are they?
Yeah.
Alum kind of area. That's really nice. I think that coupled in with that like note of freshness. Yeah. And it's like all together, it's like very like breathy, isn't it? It's very much, it's just a lot that's going on at stages.
Yeah, no, there's a journey exactly, which I'm enjoying.
Well, I know we're not meant to compare, but there definitely is like a stage with this one and a nice flow.
Yeah.
That's moving through, and that there's a little bit of crunch in this one. Just got a little piece of it. That's a nice little subtle surprise to provide that that inconsistency between each bite and something different every time. Loads of length. Yeah, it's a lovely cheese. It's a very, very good cheese. 8 or 9 for me on flavor.
There's just a little bit of like stinging for me, which I don't know where that sits. Maybe texture, or is it flavor? Just a little bit of that kind of histamine kind of like
Histamine, yeah, I get that.
Entirely dislike, but I think for me it kind of like takes it to an 8 over a 9.
Yeah, let's go 8. Yeah. I like that being in there. I think it just, I think that's it's not overwhelming for me. And once I think it provides that differentiation that we're talking about, like the stages, and I like that being there. Lovely cheese, really good.
Yeah, I'm sort of wondering if I've been a bit mean there. We go 8.5.
Yeah, if you want to go, go ahead. Yeah. I think it's just like when you're like aging a cheese and you get that histamine kind of like in, it's actually very hard to balance it out. You're kind of in that kind of trigeminal area, and I'm not feeling like that aggression. Yeah.
Wait, so
Great
let's wait.
cheese.
1107.
Okay. Right. Well, we've got a very, very even looking, even coloured cheese here. Incredibly thin rind. It's almost rindless. It's so thin.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it washed? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was just like a light wash, because it does have that sort of peachy kind of tinge that you associate with a washed rind. I guess. Oh yeah, actually smelling it, yeah, probably a little wash.
Interesting, that wash though. Really even washing, like well done. That's like
Yeah,
like pretty much covering all over. I think I think it looks really, really pleasant and an attractive light cheese. Would I be thinking about what I'm going to get? Yeah, I mean a nice light experience.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of little holes through the paste, but they're very evenly distributed. They're very evenly sized. I'm intrigued. I actually don't know what to expect here.
Oh yeah, because the juxtaposed between the washing and the light paste, it'd be interesting to see how that permeates. And if it's worth it, because I suppose what I'm thinking is that it's developed quite a thin, firm rind, which will lock in quite a bit of moisture. And yeah. So I think there's intrigue there, and character actually. So what?
So we could go high on appearance, I think, based on.
I think so. Yeah.
8, 9.
8. I think 8 for me. Yeah.
Aroma.
Oh.
The rind is quite promising, actually.
Yeah, it's got that lovely, like fermented, kind of like, that soy fermentation kind of very clear ferment, almost like and
then the taste. It's not very strong. I've had to get it quite close to me to detect anything, but I think that the rind is quite a promising aroma, and there's nothing unpleasant coming from.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting like a kind of a degree of like almost like carcinogenic burnt toast kind of area. Yeah. Which it actually excites me because I love burnt toast. Yeah, so I'm interested. I'm
interested too. I think we can go like a 7, would you say, for aroma?
Now I'm thinking about it, like the intrigue of it, and it's not unpleasant intrigue, it's genuine intrigue. I think that's quite a good thing to have. So I think maybe like 7.5. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Excited. Yeah, so the texture is quite springy, and very different.
It's a little bit chewier than I expected.
A lot chewier. It's kind of got like a an overdone kind of like beef vibe to it, a chewy beef.
Yeah, I was thinking more like scrambled.
Yeah, not unfortunately, not to me, not in kind of like a good way, like as in
like a sort of tofu kind of.
spot on. That's what it is. Which is very different. I don't know if that particularly falls in favour of the cheese.
No, I think it's difficult. It's sort of sitting in a difficult place where like it could be softer and that would be an improvement, or it could be firmer and that would be an improvement. But where it is right now, it's sort of in a difficult place texture-wise that I think it's just not quite.
I totally agree. I think any other way it would be good, and I think it's not lending itself particularly well with the, with the other attributes that we're talking about that we're scoring. So I'd put this round about a 5 for me in terms of.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's a bit of a shame.
And I think those areas that you're talking about, tofu, kind of like, what I was saying, like split eggs kind of thing, is in an area where people want to be.
No, if you use that as notes, then no one would want that.
Yeah. So flavour, which is, I think, completely different from anywhere where I thought it would be.
It's a real surprise, isn't it, this cheese? There's something quite meaty about it. It's difficult for me to separate this from the texture, because what I want when I bite into that is for the flavour to be unleashed, but actually it's almost like that kind of
it's got
the texture is holding the flavour back.
And it's got that kind of like boiled pork kind of like vibe to it, like on the flavour. And it's kind of in that area, once again, actually similar to the texture, where it's like, when you fully boil pork and it's cooked perfectly, then you get like this kind of like different flavour with the salt and everything. Maybe slightly undersalted, but but we're kind of in a boiled kind of scenario. It's so interesting. It's so interesting.
I feel like it just. I hope that I'm not being biased against it because I haven't understood this cheese, because it's like I'm struggling to place it. I think there is one of it's. The flavour is actually quite good, but there's just.
I think with all the categories that we've spoken about this cheese, I think there's massive potential actually, and I think and to be fair, they maybe have a customer base that loves this style of cheese, but I think a little bit more refinement and the potential, fully harnessing that meat flavor to get its potential, focusing on the texture a little bit more, and just working out which way that they want to go with this cheese would be really beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. And I think perhaps a little bit more salting. I feel really lacking a little bit in salt, and that's kind of just holding it back a little bit in terms of delivering the flavor that it has the potential to.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, it would be interesting to see, hand sorting or brining, or what these people may be doing, because the craftsmanship on it is really, really good. Like the washing that we think is there. So it'd be really interesting to see this cheese on another day in another light, or to understand what direction or where it comes from. Yeah.
Definitely. And wise, like a 6.
Yeah. I'll go for a 6.
Yeah, I think great.
Thank you. The next one is 1129.
Believe.
Okay. So we hear maybe like a cheddar style, perhaps. Like golden paste, nice even coloration. Actually, there's a little bit of like marbling through this. Not marbling exactly, but like variation in the color between sort of straw and gold.
Yeah, really pleasant. There's you can see that sort of cracking, subtle cracking that's in there. Nice rind. I don't see anything particularly wrong with that. Ideas of obviously cloth that's there, the little lip that's there. So yeah.
Great. So I think appearance wise, It's,
It's pretty.
a nice bit of cheese. I'm not concerned about anything coming from the appearance.
I think I'm around about sort of 7 to 8.
Yeah, I was thinking 8. So
Yeah.
7. Yeah, let's go 8.
Yeah.
Aroma.
Really interesting, isn't it? It's got a real boozy kind of note to it.
Yeah, and just under where that cloth's been, some real complexity, like really complex aromas coming from the rind.
Very different, but very kind of like barrel, aged, winey kind of area. I like it. I like it. I think it's intriguing.
I think it's got a great aroma. I
Mm.
think around an 8 for me.
Yeah, I'll go for 8. That sounds great. Yeah. That kind of like hits a bit like the truck, doesn't it? It's a...
Trying to stay focused on the texture. There's a nice crumble to it. A little bit of sort of not sandiness, but like a powdery, something a little powdery to the mouthfeel.
Very sticky as well, isn't it? Gets caught between your like gums and teeth, and then you're kind of lifting that paste off, and I think that's when you get that sort of granulation that's in there. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think I'm around a 6 on the texture.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I don't I don't find it entirely pleasant texture-wise. And there's also quite a lot of like sting.
Yeah.
I think we put that in flavor earlier, but it really sort of sits between the two, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That mouth.
Oh, definitely that mouthfeel kind of area. I think, moving on to flavor, you've got like really big, impactful, pure kind of histamine hits like a kind of truck that, those customers that come into the shop and say, I want something that just really lifts my gums off.
What's the thing you've got? It's this.
Yeah, it's that.
It is.
And they'll walk out happy. That's
absolutely delighted.
Mm.
Very, very bovril-y. It is like having a spoonful of bovril, which I don't object to, by the way.
No. I think that coupled with that yeast element kind of does make it really singular and one-dimensional. And I'm really struggling to kind of like peel apart anything else that's going on in there.
I know what you mean. It's a little bit one-noted, like there's a little bit of like farminess, but it's really kind of like overpowered by that.
Yeah, you've got that bovril, that sting, and then that sting just continues to last, for like almost, like a couple of minutes after. So really particular type of customer that would like this, I think. And I think that's probably what they're going for, which it kind of heavily achieves. Would like to see more rounding in terms of the, other flavors that are there. And yeah, for me, I'd be around about, 6 or 7. More towards 7.
6 or 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you to pick the number. I'm in agreement.
Okay, cool. I'll go for 6 then. Yeah.
This is one of the few cheeses that we've tried where like maybe it would be better to see it younger.
Yes. Oh, definitely. It would be so interesting. Yeah, so interesting to see that journey and like the way that kind of develops through. And when that switch happens, because I reckon there'll be a switch where it goes from, being quiet, grassy, easy going, then bam, yeah.
So the next one is 1159, which is the one we might not have samples for. Perry, have you got?
Oh, 1159.
So samples might be there. The ones that might be sent to you here.
I haven't had anything delivered.
Let me just check down. Let me just check downstairs. I'll be 2 minutes. That's all right. Not 2 minutes. One.
Now we're going to 1168.
Hey, it's interesting looking bit of cheese here. Almost looks like a sort of Alpine style, doesn't it?
Does indeed. It does look like an Alpine style. Nice and sort of long, atypical kind of rind that's on there. Potentially morge with the tight corners, maybe.
Yeah, potentially.
And then yeah, a little lettering kind of
Yeah,
on
I
the
don't
side.
have enough lettering to tell me anything interesting, but yeah, I can see that there has been some.
I don't know what letter that is. Anyway, yes, that so really looks really well made. I think I'm just trying to work out that sort of kind of like
Fissures through it. Yeah, it's sort of almost
yeah.
like
Yeah, you're getting that kind of that diamond shape that's there from the subtle blowing that's probably happening within the cheese of that style. But you know, the rind and the stuff on the side and the shape of it for you know, a British cheese, I guess that's you know, well done. Yeah.
yeah. So appearance wise, I'd be tempted around a sort of 7, 8 for this.
I think yeah, I would think off the bat, I think I would be like 8 or 9, but with that kind of I think I've got to come down to like a 7, really. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's go 7.
Yep.
Then aroma.
Aroma. Yeah, very meat, animal, farm area.
Yeah, there's some nice butteriness, like a sort of melted butter quality to it in the center as well, though. But definitely
definitely feels like you would know, like it smells like where it kind of like came from, I suppose. There's a lot of
like sort of barnyardy.
barnyardy. I'm struggling to search around past that, if I'm going to be honest.
Right. How about rind wise? What's
Typical kind of musty, cave age, slight wash.
yeah. Yeah, there's a few different things going on the rind. Not all of them pleasant.
Yeah. I think I'm around about a 6 on
Yeah,
the
exactly what I was thinking. There's a few issues there that aromas of concern, I suppose.
I really like where it's heading. I like looking at cheeses in this, you know, large format that are typically found, you know, continental style. But there's just a few sort of areas, the kind of aggressive Barney cowpack kind of area and a little bit more. So yeah, appreciate letting us know where it comes from, but I just need a little bit more from that.
Sure. Texture wise, when I cut a slice, it immediately all of those fissures through the center are just kind of make it a little bit difficult to portion. I think we would struggle with that. And then
Just quite smooth with a little bit of rigidity. But
I think texture is quite pleasant. It's as you'd expect for this style of cheese if we're going for an Alpine, like nice and smooth, very kind of I don't want to say creamy, but
yeah,
like
it's good. Yeah, it just kind of feels like it's a really good texture. I kind of put it around about 7. It feels like it requires a little bit of refinement to get it up to that next stage of where it's heading.
Okay. Flavor.
I actually really like it on flavor. I was kind of a little bit questioning that level of aroma in that barnyard
Mm.
of how it would come through, and I think it delivers quite well actually in the cheese.
I think the barnyard predominates, which some people, especially cheesemongers, can be very enthusiastic about. I
Yeah.
feel like
It's
maybe
strange. I feel like it on the aroma it was really dominating, and I feel like it's a feature. But I think I'm surprised by the sort of the sweetness, the milk, the touch of savoury. I was expecting it fully to be, you know, to be honest, like cow pat, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
The balance is definitely better in the flavour than it is in the aroma in that barnyardy aspect. For me, there's a little bit too much barnyard still, even when it's better balanced out by all the other things that you mentioned, like the sweetness, the milkiness. I am pleasantly surprised by it, but it's
Yes. Yeah.
maybe a tad
I think
imbalanced.
for me, I think I think this is a good. The piece that I have is a good cheese. You know, is it superb? Is it excellent? No, I think I may be near 6.5 to 7, and really watching with intrigue of what this cheese does, because I think the elements are all there, and if the refinement comes through, boy, that's going to be really special.
Definitely one to watch. I think a 6.5 is probably where I'm at with this.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, as you say, really, really interested to see this again.
Yeah.
And the final one we've got is 1186.
Right, so we've got, I don't know, you can't always tell, but I think maybe like a Gouda style, but a sort of smaller format Gouda style than the ones that you see in the Netherlands. Very, very thin rind, quite delicate.
Yeah. Washed, right? Do you think?
Curd or rind?
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking maybe the rind, maybe.
Possibly, I don't know, because it's quite there's nothing sticky about this rind. It's
No.
on my sample certainly, but I guess I wouldn't rule it out. Appearance wise, I think it looks very nice. I think if I saw that on a cheese board, it'd probably be one of the things that I plumped for.
It looks delightfully pleasant with a degree of character that inspires a bit of intrigue that's there.
I think as well in this style of cheese, you can tell that this has got a little bit of age to it. Maybe not masses, but a little bit. Like you know, you might see cheeses in this style sold a lot younger than this, but I'm hopeful that this is got a little bit of age to it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, appearance, I think maybe around about like 8 or 9.
Yeah, should we go 8.5?
Yeah, let's go 8.5. The kind of that, you know, it's got no visible hallmarks of being washed, but I don't know, I just get like this aroma kind of off it that I don't know. Yeah, I'll find out later. I'm just I'm intrigued.
Cutting into the center of that cheese, the aroma is very, very caramelly.
Yeah, I felt like, you know, we were going to get like sort of maybe less of for some reason visually, less of that Gouda style that we were talking about, like a little touch of it, but the smell was very pronounced in that area, pleasantly pronounced, I think.
Yeah, nice sort of buttery caramelly. Where it's been in the vat pack, I wasn't getting a great deal of aroma from, but yeah, once cutting into it, there's something very pleasant in there. And rind wise, nothing unpleasant there either. I think that's a nice aroma.
Yeah, I think it's I mean it lacks that depth of like complexity that's there. Obviously the rind is a little bit, you know, musty. But it adds that kind of like as they intermingle provides that. I mean, I think it's quite nice. I think I'm around about an 8 on the aroma.
Great, yeah, let's go for an 8.
Yeah. Texture, very firm, eh?
Hmm. Yeah, that age really apparent in the texture because it's got a bit of like it's resistant, it's toothsome.
Flavor isn't what I would sorry, just I've jumped forward. But the flavor's not what I expected. I like that density that's in there.
Yeah, it's sort of
It's
like a
probably
really
it feels almost feels like one of the most aged, you know, the hardest cheese that we've had actually.
yeah, it's akin to, I forget which the very aged one was.
I like that texture.
It. Yeah, there's nothing concerning in that texture. I go like an 8, 9.
I go with an 8, 8.5. I actually think the firmness of it and being so firm, and it's kind of like almost in a weird way like sucking like a Werther's original. You know, it kind of like slowly dissipates as you work with it in a really even way. And I think that's very different, and I quite like that.
Right. And then flavor wise,
Yeah, it completely wasn't what I was expecting, actually.
right. It completely was what I was expecting.
Okay, got you. Go on.
Possible that I know what cheese is.
Yeah. Well, you can tell me if it's washed rind or not, can't you? So definitely not washed then, I'm guessing.
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's possible I don't know what this cheese is, but
Okay. We'll discuss later.
sure. Like the balance, savory to sweet, I'm really enjoying that. There's
Yeah, it's interesting. It feels like to me that it's predominantly a savory salt journey. And as you engage with that sweetness, it's kind of like it's kind of like just every now and again, like jabbing at you kind of through that. So I feel like we've got this like journey that's there, and then that sweet element just keeps on cropping in every now and again, making like an appearance, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, no, and you know, I think any cheese where the flavor is like a journey with different spots and like different like highs and lows of those flavors, I tend to enjoy more just because there's, you know, greater complexity there. There's something almost like floral in there, like a sort of cow parsley type of, or, yeah, something quite like a aromatic floral in there as well. But
Yes.
I only get like glimpses of it every so often. It's like, oh, what's that? Oh, it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's I think it's really intriguing actually. I think it's quite interesting to see. I mean, it does remind me of those like mountain style savory continental cheeses
Yeah.
that I think that were like we really struggle to get this profile in cheese, I think, in the UK. So I really like to see this, that it's like this. I think that's delicious actually. Yeah, so I'll be I'll be like 9 on that one.
Yeah, I could go for a 9 on that one.
Full cheese.
Yeah, very nice. You know, deserves to do well in this competition. It's really got a lot going for it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Great. So that's the end of those cheeses. We do have one that's not arrived with 1159. So if we do get that one today, we will judge it and then do the scores. So that might influence kind of what happens with this. But at the moment, 1059 is the winner with 39.5. And the second one underneath that, just picking, is 1097. The
Yep.
second.
There you go.
38.5.
And
And
then is that last one the third place, or?
yeah, last one is 38.5.
Yeah.
Well
Great.
done, us.
They
Yeah,
are.
That is good. That is great. That's a really nice first, second, and third. That is.
Very good. Thank you for your time and your expertise, Perry and Hero. For everyone else, with the end of this class judging, make sure that you watch us for the final. So we're doing a category final on Tuesday, the 14th of May, which will be the last 7 categories, hosted by Nigel Barden. And then on the Wednesday, the 15th of May, is our Supreme Judging, so Supreme Champion, where we'll announce all of our winners and lots of interesting cheese chats as well with Perry as well, those people. So yes, thank you very much, and thanks guys. Cheers, bye.
Bye bye.